The leather steering wheel was slick with blood, not sweat. Blood has a different texture, thicker, warmer, sticky in a way that makes grip uncertain. Bumpy Johnson's hands hadn't shaken in 30 years, not since his first night in Sing Sing, but they were shaking now, not from fear, from blood loss. The man in the passenger seat pressed a monogrammed handkerchief against Bumpy's shoulder, white silk, expensive thread, initials embroidered in gold, J.E.H. The same man who'd spent 2 decades calling him every racial slur the English language offered. The same man whose life Bumpy had just saved. "Press harder," Bumpy said, voice steady despite the fire spreading through his shoulder. "Shoulder wounds bleed like rivers if you're gentle." FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover pressed harder. His hands shook worse than Bumpy's. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. 48 hours earlier, Bumpy had been sitting in the back booth of Wells' restaurant on 7th Avenue. 3 different people walked through his door in 6 hours. That alone was unusual. What they told him was impossible. First was Claudette, a hotel maid with the gift for being invisible when powerful men talked too loud. She slipped him a napkin with an address and date scribbled in eyeliner. Her hand shook when she passed it. Claudette never shook. Second was Officer Dennis Mallory, a beat cop on Bumpy's payroll for 5 years. He sat without ordering, which meant serious, and said, "Operation Clean Sweep, Wednesday. Your neighborhood won't survive it." Third was Raymond Chin, the wiretap expert. He stood near the door and spoke 4 words. 47, Wednesday, the Pierre. Bumpy walked 6 blocks in October cold before letting himself think about what those 3 pieces meant together. 47 men, all converging where FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover would attend a fundraiser. Not just assassination, a setup. Kill Hoover, blame black radicals, justify martial law in every black neighborhood nationwide. The real killers walk free while Harlem burns. Hoover was a monster. Bumpy knew that. Everyone knew that. The man had weaponized the FBI against anyone who didn't match his vision of America. He'd called Martin Luther King racial slurs in official memos. His file on Bumpy could wallpaper apartments. But if Hoover died Wednesday night, Harlem would pay the price in blood. That night, Bumpy sat in his study with the books nobody expected a numbers runner to own. Dostoevsky, Baldwin, Sun Tzu. He thought about crime and punishment, about impossible choices, about what survival actually costs. If Hoover died, they'd make it look like retaliation, some radical group, some angry black man with a manifesto. The narrative would write itself before the body cooled. Then reprisals would come, not investigation, reprisals. Every black neighborhood would see boots and batons and midnight raids, martial law without calling it that. They'd burn Harlem looking for ghosts while the real killers got promotions. 47 men. That wasn't a hit. That was a coup. Bumpy made a decision that would have gotten him killed by his own people if they knew. He had to warn Hoover, had to save the man who'd spent 20 years trying to destroy everything Bumpy built. He tried official channels first, called FBI tip lines from payphones. They hung up, sent telegrams, ignored. Had Claudette slip a note under Hoover's hotel door, found in trash the next morning, unopened. Nobody wanted warnings from a racial slur. That's what Hoover had called him publicly. Nobody would listen. Tuesday night, Bumpy told his 3 most trusted men the plan. "You've lost your mind. Save the man trying to destroy you?" "I'm saving Harlem from what happens if he dies," Bumpy corrected. Marcus, younger and angrier, shook his head. "Let him die. Why is that our problem?" "Because when they're done killing each other, they're coming for us. They'll have a reason, a dead FBI director. They'll decide it was us and make us pay." "So what?" Willie leaned back. "You gonna walk into the Pierre and play guardian angel? They'll shoot you in the lobby." "I'm not using the front door." Bumpy explained the rest. The Pierre had a service entrance opening into the kitchen. Claudette gave him the schedule. Wednesday night, shift change at 7. 15 minutes when the loaning dock was understaffed. He'd slip through the kitchen, reach the 3rd-floor dining room, physically remove Hoover before shooters arrived. And if he doesn't believe you,
Marcus asked. Then I'll have died trying to save a man who hates me.
History's full of worse ways to go. Wednesday arrived cold and clear. Bumpy dressed carefully, dark suit, 45 under his jacket, 38 at his ankle. Not planning war, but not walking in unarmed. At 6:45, he stood in the alley behind the Pierre, watching kitchen staff filter out for break. October wind carried expensive food smells and cheap cigarette smoke. His heart was steady, hands steady, everything steady, except the voice asking why he was doing this. He pushed it down, stepped through the service door. The kitchen was controlled chaos, purposeful, coordinated, everyone moving like parts of a machine. Bumpy walked through like he belonged, heading for the service elevator. Nobody stopped him. A well-dressed black man near service entrance must be management, must be somebody else's problem. He reached the elevator, pressed 3. Then he heard the first gunshot. Not from upstairs, from the kitchen behind him. Then another, then sounds like dishes breaking, but wrong, too wet, too heavy. Bumpy hit emergency stop, drew his 45, took stairs back down 3 at a time. The kitchen had transformed. 4 men in dark suits, faces he didn't recognize, weapons drawn. 2 cooks on the ground, not moving. A prep chef crawling toward the freezer, leaving red trails. They'd started early. First shooter saw Bumpy, raised his weapon. Bumpy was faster. 2 shots, sent a mass. The man dropped. Second shooter turned, got 1 round off that punched through a steel shelf near Bumpy's head. Bumpy's return fire caught him in the throat. He went down gurgling. Third and fourth had cover behind the industrial stove. Bumpy dove behind a prep counter as bullets tore through stainless steel. He couldn't stay pinned. Hoover was upstairs. If these 4 were in the kitchen, dozens more were on upper floors. His eyes tracked the room. 10 feet left, a pot of boiling stock. 15 feet right, the grease trap. Half-second decision. Bumpy grabbed a kitchen towel, wrapped his hand, seized a pot stock, hurled it toward the shooters. Boiling liquid arced through air. One screamed. The distraction bought 2 seconds. He used them. Rolled right, came up firing, caught the screaming one in the chest. The last shooter fired wild, panicked, hit Bumpy in the shoulder. Impact like a hammer, heat like a brand. Bumpy stumbled but didn't fall. Fired twice more. The shooter went down. 4 bodies, blood mixing with spilled stock on tiles. The prep chef had stopped crawling. Bumpy checked his shoulder, through and through, missed bone, bad but not fatal. He reloaded, pressed his hand against bleeding, headed for stairs. 3 flights up, every step lightning through his shoulder. He could hear shouts, more gunfire from 3rd floor. They were already at Hoover's room. The hallway was elegant, crown molding, expensive paintings, thick carpet, also full of bodies. 2 servers, 1 security guard, all executed. Bumpy moved toward voices. The dining room door was open. Inside, Hoover backed against a wall, small pistol raised at 3 advancing shooters. More covered the hallway. Bumpy had maybe 5 seconds. He thought of Claudette risking everything, thought of every Harlem kid who'd pay if this failed. Then he stepped into the hallway and started shooting. First hallway shooter dropped before understanding what happened. Bumpy's bullet behind the ear, clean, instant. Second spun fast, got his weapon up, but Bumpy closed distance. Close quarters negates accuracy. He grabbed his wrist, redirected the barrel upward. Gun fired into ceiling. Plaster rained. Bumpy's knee found ribs. Something cracked. Then 2 rounds sent to mass. 3 more poured from the dining room. Bumpy dove behind a marble table. Glass shattered. Wood splintered. A bullet grazed his side. Shallow but burning. Then Hoover's pistol barked. One shooter stumbled out, clutching his leg. The distraction cost the others focus. Bumpy used it. 4 rapid shots, 2 hit, men dropped. Third charged Bumpy, face twisted with personal hatred, not professional. This man saw a racial slur, not a person. He fired. Bullet passed close enough Bumpy felt heat. Bumpy returned fire. 3 shots. Last one dropped him 5 feet away. Hallway went quiet except for ringing ears. Bumpy reloaded, stepped into dining room. Hoover's trembling pistol aimed at him. "Don't," Bumpy said quietly. "You're Ellsworth Johnson?" "I am." "You're here to kill me?" "If I was, you'd be dead. I'm here because 43 more just like these are coming. When you're dead, they'll blame my people." Hoover's gun didn't lower. "Why should I believe?" "Because I took a bullet getting to you." Bumpy gestured to his bleeding shoulder. "Because I killed 7 men defending you. We don't have time. Trust me 10 minutes or die deciding." Heavy footsteps approaching, multiple sets. Hoover lowered his weapon. "What do we do?" "Service exit. Move now."
Bumpy found a dead shooter's radio. Pressed transmit. Voices. "Third floor secure. Negative on target. Johnson's here. Repeat, Bumpy Johnson is on site." They'd expected him. Trap for both. "They're covering exits. We fight our way out," Bumpy said. 43 of them. Then we better be smarter." Service stairwell 30 feet away. Voices above and below, boxing them in. They ran. Bumpy hit the door, shouldered it open. 2 shooters descending from 4th floor. Bumpy fired first, walking shots upward. Both fell. Behind him, Hoover gasped, sound of a man who ordered violence but never witnessed it close. "Keep moving." 2nd floor clear. 1st floor landing, 3 shooters waiting, spread out. Bumpy shoved Hoover back, fired twice, magazine running low. One shooter called, "Give us Hoover and walk, boy." That word, boy, said like Bumpy was less than human. "Come take 'em," Bumpy answered. All 3 rushed stairs. Bumpy met them halfway. First died fast, headshot. Second got a shot off that punched through Bumpy's side. Real damage, hot wetness spreading, strength draining. But he didn't fall. Couldn't, not yet. 3 shots dropped the second. Third retreated, firing wild. Bumpy pursued despite agony, caught him at the landing. Last 2 rounds finished it. Slide locked back, empty. Bumpy reloaded the backup .38 with blood-slicked hands. "Now, we go now." Loading dock, service door 15 feet away, daylight, sirens in the distance. Maybe they'd make it. Door opened. 4 more shooters entered. Bumpy raised the .38, 5 rounds, 4 targets, and he was dying on his feet. One shooter smiled. "End of the line," racial slur. "Not yet," Bumpy said, and fired. First shooter down. Return fire came. Third bullet hit Bumpy's left thigh. Leg buckled. He dropped to one knee, kept shooting. Second down. Hoover's pistol barked twice. One shot connected, hitting third shooter's arm. Bumpy finished him with headshot. Fourth shooter had cover behind a cart. Bumpy had 2 rounds left. Vision blurring, darkness creeping. "Hoover," he said, "when I draw fire, you run. Don't look back." "I'm not—" "You die here. This was for nothing. Run." Bumpy stood, took everything, but he stood, stepped into open. They fired simultaneously. Impact in his chest, off-center, maybe ribs. He stayed up long enough to see the shooter fall. Then gravity won. He went down hard. Concrete cold against his cheek. Hoover's hands grabbed him, dragged him toward light, into a vehicle. "Hospital," Hoover started. "No," Bumpy managed, gripping Hoover's wrist. "No police. You call them, I'm dead anyway. Different kind. I know people. Drive." Bumpy directed him through unfamiliar streets into Harlem. Safe house on 131st Street. Dr. Samuel arrived, extracted bullets, stitched wounds, gave blood from donors who appeared without asking. Bumpy woke 6 hours later, still breathing.
Hoover sat beside the bed, jacket off, shirt sleeves bloodied. "You're still here," Bumpy said. "Where else would I be?" "Arresting me, taking credit. I watched you kill 15 men tonight, take 3 bullets, nearly die, from me." Hoover's voice cracked. "For a man who spent 20 years trying to destroy you, who called you—" He couldn't say it. "I know what you called me." Silence. "Why?" Hoover asked. "Because 47 white men thought they could murder you and blame my people, use your death to justify burning everything we built. I wasn't letting that happen. So not for me. No, for Harlem, for every black neighborhood that would have burned while they hunted ghosts." Hoover stood, walked to window. "I was wrong about you, about everything. You were wrong about what I am, wrong about what that means. I've built my career on seeing threats, on protecting America from—" He stopped, turned. "From people I convinced myself were less than human. That's how I justified it. And now," Bumpy said, "now I've seen someone I degraded take bullets to save my life. 15 men dead because you chose to protect someone who never protected you." His hands shook. "I don't know what I am anymore, but I know what I was, and God help me, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't undo files, doesn't erase surveillance, doesn't bring back people your policies destroyed. I know, but it's a start." Long silence between them. "What happens now?" Hoover asked. "You walk out, go back to your world, don't mention this. Those 15 died in gang warfare. You live, I live, and maybe you think twice before calling the next person like me a racial slur. The conspirators will be handled quietly." Hoover dressed, putting himself back together. "I can't forget what you did. I'm still a criminal, run numbers, enforce territory, operate outside your laws. That won't change. But you're also the man who saved my life when you had every reason to let me die. Don't make me your redemption story. What are you then?" Bumpy thought about it. About Dostoevsky, about Claudette and Willie and Marcus, about 3 bullets and 15 bodies and one impossible choice. Someone who tries to be better than to hate.
Even when it costs everything. Hoover nodded. The surveillance on Harlem, the files, the operations. What about them? They're over, as of now. No more wiretaps, no harassment, no more hunting people for existing while black. I believe it when I see it. You'll see it. Hoover paused at the door. I can't undo 20 years, but I can stop being that man, starting now. He left. Bumpy listened to footsteps fade, let exhaustion pull him under. 3 months later, Bumpy sat on his brownstone stoop reading the Times. Headlines about FBI civil rights initiatives, voter protection, police brutality investigations, reassignments of agents targeting civil rights groups. No explanation for the policy shift. A kid approached, 12 years old, bright eyes. "Mr. Johnson, Willie says you saved somebody important few months back. Won't say who, though." Bumpy smiled slightly. "What's your name?" "Marcus. Marcus Williams." "Well, Marcus, sometimes you protect people who don't deserve it, because what happens to them affects everybody, even enemies. Don't make sense. It will. When you understand, hate is easy. Being better than hate is the hardest thing you'll ever do. When you learn the strongest thing is mercy when you've earned revenge." The kid nodded, ran off to join friends playing stickball. Bumpy watched, feeling the ache in his shoulder, stiffness in his side, slight limp from his leg. Worth it. Every scar, every nightmare, every moment of doubt. Worth it to have changed something, proven being better was possible. The surveillance had actually stopped, really stopped. For first time in 20 years, Bumpy could talk without wondering who listened,
could walk streets without unmarked cars shadowing, could exist without being treated like a threat just for being successful while black. Hoover had kept his word. They never spoke again. No calls, no letters, no acknowledgement of the Pierre. That was fine. Bumpy didn't need gratitude, just needed Hoover to stop treating Harlem like occupied territory, and he had. Willie sat beside him that evening as the sun set. They watched the street, kids playing, mothers calling them home, old men arguing politics, the whole beautiful ecosystem of black life continuing despite everything designed to crush it. "You ever gonna tell me the whole story?" Willie asked. "Nope. Street's got theories. Some say you saved a politician. Some say you made the deal with the devil himself." Bumpy smiled. "What do you think?" "I think you made the impossible choice so we didn't have to live with the consequences. Took bullets so we didn't have to. Bled so Harlem could breathe. Comfortable silence between decades of friendship. You changed something. Don't know what exactly, but something shifted. People feel safer, like we got breathing room for once. Good, that's all I wanted. Room to breathe, space to exist, a chance for next generation to have something better." Bumpy stood, body protesting, but strong, healed and ready. He had work, numbers to run, territory to protect, kids to mentor, community to serve. The same work he'd always done, but now without constant federal oppression. He walked inside, past books nobody expected criminals to own, past the chair where he'd made impossible decisions, looked at himself in the mirror. Older, scarred, harder in some ways, softer in others, but still standing, still fighting, still protecting, still proving one person's choice could change history's trajectory, even if nobody ever knew the whole story. 6 months after that night, Bumpy sat in his study reading about new federal policies protecting voting rights in the South. Hoover's FBI, the same bureau that had terrorized black communities, now investigating police who attacked peaceful protesters. A knock on his door. Willie entered with a newspaper. "You see this?" Willie pointed to a small article buried on page 12. 16 federal agents arrested for conspiracy, attempting to assassinate a government official. Article says they were planning a coup. Says they got caught because of an anonymous tip. Bumpy read it carefully. No mention of the Pierre. No mention of his name. Just justice, quiet and complete. "You know anything about this?" Willie asked. "Not a thing." Willie smiled, shook his head. "You're a terrible liar, old man. Good thing I'm an excellent strategist, then." They sat together as evening came. Bumpy's body had healed completely. The shoulder worked fine, despite cold weather aches. The side was scarred over clean. The leg was strong. Dr. Samuel had done good work. Harlem had saved one of its own. Young Marcus came by later with a question about school, about whether college was worth it for someone from the neighborhood.
"You're smart enough for anywhere," Bumpy told him. "Don't let anyone tell you different. Not teachers, not cops, not anyone who looks at you and sees something less than what you are. Like that FBI director who used to watch our neighborhood?" Marcus asked. "Willie says he stopped, says something changed, but won't say what." Bumpy looked at the kid who carried his lieutenant's name, saw the future in those eyes. Sometimes people change. Sometimes they see things that make them question everything they believed. Sometimes one moment can shift a whole life's trajectory. You think people can really change? Even people who hated us? I've seen it happen. Seen a man look at his own hands covered in someone else's blood and realize everything he thought he knew was wrong. Seen hatred crack under the weight of sacrifice. Bumpy paused. But change is hard. Takes courage. Takes being willing to admit you were wrong about fundamental things. Marcus absorbed this, nodded seriously, then ran back to his friends. Willie watched the exchange. You teaching him philosophy now? Teaching him that being better than the hate is always possible, always worth it, even when it costs you everything. Cost you 3 bullets worth? Would have paid more if needed. They sat in comfortable silence as stars appeared over Harlem. The neighborhood breathed easy now, no longer under siege, no longer treated like enemy territory. Parents walked kids home without fear. Young men gathered on corners without being harassed. Life continued, normal and beautiful and free. Somewhere in Washington, Hoover sat in his office implementing policies that would have been unthinkable a year ago, protecting the very people he'd spent decades trying to destroy. No press conferences about his transformation, no public acknowledgement of what changed him, just quiet, steady work toward being better than he'd been. And in Harlem, Bumpy Johnson, criminal, strategist, protector, the man who'd chosen mercy over revenge, stood from his stoop, his body strong, his conscience clear, his neighborhood safe. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tomorrow always did. But tonight, kids played in streets no longer under surveillance. Tonight, families slept without fear of midnight raids. Tonight, a community breathed easier because one man had made an impossible choice. He walked inside, past Dostoevsky and Baldwin and Sun Tzu, past the chair where decisions got made, to his bedroom where 3 small scars told a story nobody would ever fully know. The story of how hate cracked, how mercy won, how one bleeding man in a loading dock changed the course of history by refusing to become what oppressed him. Still standing, still fighting, still proving every day that being better than the hate isn't just possible, it's the only thing that truly matters. Hit like if your Bumpy earned your respect. Subscribe because history class never taught you this, and share it with someone who thinks one person can't change the world. Comment which untold story we should cover next. Your voice picks the next legend.